for those of you listening on the pod.
All right, welcome in hour two. Let's. I thought it would be cool to kind of dive into some of the position rooms. I think you actually suggested this too, Jacob. You had mentioned, hey, why don't we talk some of the position rooms here? And since we already talked a little technique just a second ago, why don't we lead off with defensive tackle rooms? Is that cool with you guys?
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's do it. So let's take a deep dive into the current defensive tackle room. And I think it's good to get a little refresher before the draft gets here so we know exactly what we got in the room. Sometimes you sign a couple low-key players or people don't understand that, or, it slipped past me 1,000 times where it's like, oh, I didn't know that dude was on the roster because they got signed to a futures contract or something like that. So Let's take a look at the entire room here, which there's Devontae White just absolutely peeling Will Levis's cap in that Tennessee game. So let's take a deep dive into the Green Bay Packers' current interior defensive line room as of April 7th, 2025. The Packers have assembled a mix of veterans, young contributors, and untested depth at this critical position, tasked with stopping the run and pressuring quarterbacks from the interior. 2024, Green Bay's defense excelled, ranking second in the NFL in run defense by allowing just 4.0 yards per carry, while their 45 sacks placed them eighth league-wide. A strong showing.
Can you say that again? Read that line again for all these haters out there.
Green Bay's defense excelled, ranking second in the NFL in run defense by allowing just 4.0 yards per carry, while their 45 sacks placed them eighth league-wide. A strong showing under Jeff Hafley's 4-3 scheme with a one-gap principle.
Top 10 defense, baby. Let's go.
Seriously, it legit is. It's a top 10 defense, just like our offense was a top 10 offense. Just wild that we – anyway, the interior line anchored the run-stopping prowess, though its pass rush impact leaned on a few key contributors. Here's a breakdown of the key players, their roles, strengths, challenges, and the overall state of the room based on the latest available information, including their 2024 defensive PFF grades. So just want to mention, again – if you go back and watch Chalk Talk all year, we talked about how they weren't really thinning their ears back. You could tell there was we didn't really notice until about halfway through the year, like, whoa, they're really putting emphasis on stopping the run this year, as opposed to just trying to get after the quarterback. And it played a big role in them winning 11 games. So key players in the interior defensive line. I sorted them by PFF grade. I'm not saying that's like absolutely great. I thought let's go off of that as kind of a base, and then we'll see how everybody feels about it in between here. And I tried to get the stats as accurate as possible. If you guys see a mistake, just let me know and we'll get the article edited. So Devontae Wyatt was the highest graded interior defensive lineman. You guys remember us talking earlier in the offseason about we need a three-tech. We need a three-tech. When many people were screaming, Rashawn Gary sucks. We need an edge. We need an edge. We were going, let's get that three-tech of the future as soon as possible. And it just so happens this draft is absolutely loaded with it. So, what is this right here? Elijah Gwynn. Nah. Hold up. Pressure rate, though. Don't come at me with the – so we're not allowed to talk about sacks now.
No, I think he's agreeing. He's saying still top 10. Okay, do you have as a dog? I think he's saying basically – yeah, you almost –
I'm pretty sure Clayton just turned red right there.
Because all year long we were talking about, man, pressure pick.
Yep.
Xavier McKinney are picking these passes off because we're getting pressure on the quarterback, right? I know we're not getting a bunch of sacks. Well, you got to be able to finish. We need sacks. Fred McFarley, quick trigger on Clay. You got that right, man. This was an interesting year, man. And when you see the end result, you go, damn, we were right. We got berated all year long. And we were right about this. So it's just unbelievable. Anyway, 66.4. Rotational three-tech. Pass rush.
Like, I'm sorry, bro. I'm sorry, dude. We're good.
You're good. You're good, man. You're on the home team. We know that now. 2024 performance. The 2022 first-round pick, 28th overall, progressed in his third year, playing in 14 games with 5 starts. He recorded 23 tackles. 23 tackles, eyelid tackles. I don't know what the heck that is. That's a typo on my part. 5 sacks and 9 tackles for a loss, leading the interior with pressure. So obviously he got 5 sacks on the interior. That was the most of anybody on the team. His strengths are explosive burst and agility. He's the group's top pass rusher, thriving in Hafley's aggressive front. Challenges. Run defense needs refinement with occasional gap discipline slips. His PFF grade reflects solid but not elite play. His contract status, he's still under his rookie deal through 2025 with a 5th-year option for 2026. I wanted to put the RAS up because we're shopping in the draft for a 3-tech. So let's look at the precedent of what kind of 3-techs have we drafted. Again, when you hear the threshold guys, it's all Gutey would never draft anybody that's less than an 8 RAS, right? We'll talk about that here in a second. Here's Devontae White. 9.59 is the RAS, 6'2", 304 pounds. Okay. Look at his reach too, arm length. When they say it's got to be 33 inches, we took Devontae White with 32.5-inch arms, basically. His 40-yard dash, 4.77, 20-yard split, 2.73, 10-yard split, 1.60, all those in the 9s. So he's definitely was a quick twitch, you know what I mean? Quick twitch, just pass rushing defensive tackle, right? Composite agility grade was good. His shuttle being a 4.63, his 3-cone was a 7.45, and he had a broad jump of 9.03, although the vertical was a little low there at 29 inches. Does that surprise you guys with Devontae White's RAS card? Is that kind of what y'all were expecting there?
What surprises me is that 4.77 40. I mean, that's quick, dude.
Didn't he run with the linebackers because he was
did he?
The D-line?
Did he really? I think I remember honestly something like that happening. So almost 6'3", over 300 pounds. That guy runs. 4.77 is not slow, dude. I mean that's beating most tight ends in this draft right now.
Yeah, definitely.
That's crazy.
Right. So there you go. Devontae White, former first-round pick, 9.59 RAS. The next highest graded player is Carl Brooks with a 62.3. Rotational defensive tackle, situational pass rusher. 2024 performance, a 2023 6th-round pick. Brooks played all 17 games, tallying 24 tackles, 3.5 sacks, and 4 tackles for a loss. And don't forget the block kick too, right? So got to throw that in there. He's a high-effort rotational piece, strengths, relentless motor, and gap penetration. He's effective on stunts and twists. That sounds like Jacob at the office. Undersized. He's 6'3", 296. He gets pushed around by bigger linemen in the run game. His PFF grade shows depth level production. Contract status under a rookie deal through 2026. Now look at the RAS. When the threshold guys come after you this year saying that Gutey won't draft one of these guys that don't have an 8+ RAS, look at this. 5.87. He was our second highest graded defensive tackle on the team. The big thing there, 6'3", 303 at the combine, 28 bench reps, pretty solid. A 40-yard dash of 5.08 at that weight isn't horrible, but definitely didn't line up in the green. His shuttle was bad. His vertical was bad, right? But what is it? Look at his arm length, 31.5 inches.
I was going to say, look at the arm length. That's
What would you say his strength is on the RAS card when you look at that? It's tough, right?
Yeah.
So again,
his 3-cone.
Exactly. When the threshold gods come after you on Twitter, just remind them of Carl Brooks. Okay, so there he is. Next is Kenny Clark. This is the big disappointment, man. And listen, I think Kenny's a great guy. I think he's a great leader. I think that's one of the reasons why they gave him the contract. You guys remember what we said on this show 2 years ago? I think you should let him test free agency. If you can get him back on a deal, great. If not, let's move on. Gutey's seen it totally different, giving him that 3-year extension. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I understand player evaluation better than Brian Gutekunst, but the writing was kind of on the wall for this type of production. And when they're double teaming him, that's why I kind of looked at what Kenny did last year as a plus because, hey, he's at least occupying a +1 hat count. The problem is that cap hit was so dang high. It's like, how can you justify paying him that much money for that kind of role? But 3-technique defensive tackle, defensive line anchor. Obviously, when you hear the word defensive line anchor, think 1-tech. Think of that guy that's going to anchor against the run in those base packages, right? 2024 performance, the veteran leader played all 17 games, recording 37 tackles, 1 sack, and 4 tackles for a loss. His lower PFF grade might reflect a focus on run defense over pass rush impact. I did not tell it to put that in there. The AI picked up on that. You could see it firsthand all year long. Strengths, power, and experience. He's a 3-time Pro Bowler in 2019, 21, and 23, who remains a run-stuffing force. Challenges. At 29, his sack production dropped significantly, suggesting a shift in role or declining explosiveness. His grade is below his usual standard. Contract status, signed a 3-year, $64 million extension in 2024, locked in through 2027. Now, we talked about this. You could move on from him after next year. You could, after this coming season if you wanted to. I just don't think Gutey's going to. I think Gutey really likes Kenny Clark. Now, former first-round pick. This was Ted Thompson, though, right, guys? Am I thinking right?
He is the last of the Mohicans, the last Ted Thompson draft pick on the team.
Got it. Okay. So his RAS card, a 7.54, and we took him in the first round. So thought that was interesting. 6'2", 314, 29 bench reps, 40-yard dash of 5.06, shuttle of 4.62, and the explosion grade was poor. So, listen, I think in his prime, I think when we got the most out of Kenny, this goes hand in hand with what we're talking about. Ryan Schlip, I will always credit him for this because this was before I was podcasting on his network. I heard him say on his podcast that Kenny hasn't been good since he had Mike Daniels lining up with him. And it hit me that day, and I was like, is that true? And I went back and looked. I'm like, I'll be damned. That's spot on. Like that's when he really shined that year, was because what we're talking about is you get two good defensive tackles, and they can't double them both. And whichever one ain't being doubled, they better eat. This year, Devontae Wyatt was the guy who got more pressures, more sacks than Kenny because Kenny was eating up more doubles. And they realized that and just, hey, let's just keep Kenny in the 3 or in the 1 tech. Let's kick Devontae Wyatt over on the 3, and that should free up Gary a little bit. Well, they started chipping on Gary. Now what happens? You got to look at Preston Smith and go, bro, you got to get pressure on the quarterback. Lo and behold, we cut Preston Smith loose, and the writing was on the wall.
And your time to shine.
There you go. I think LVN is going to surprise people this year. I just got a feeling. I just got a really, really good feeling about LVN. I really do. So what do you guys think about that RAS card there with Kenny? And in terms of like running it through the filter of the draft that we got coming up here.
I think it's something to consider just in case the dude doesn't have a -5 on the board or a 9.0 that, if it's, they were talking, DJ and Buck were talking, if it's a scheme fit, it's a scheme fit. It's just when you're scouting players, they're just saying, is this player good? Do I like him a lot? But looking at a scheme fit, it's a different scenario. Like, hey, is this guy going to perform well? Is he going to function well in our, wide zone boot, whatever, double, duo, power? So I think that, it's kind of a double-headed sword there.
I'm a little bit, I guess it would give me more hope that the way that Gutey drafts compared to what Thompson did, I don't think that Gutey would take Kenny Clark in the first round. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah,
I don't think that his measurables, I think the RAS would completely stop him from that even thought process. And at this point, being able to be a armchair quarterback looking back at the last 7-8 years of production, I think we have enough information to say, okay, maybe that wasn't the best selection in the first, but going forward, I still do think that we have seen some of the upside, the ceiling that Devontae Wyatt could have because of the fact that his RAS, I believe, was a lot more, you know what I mean? He just is kind of that quick twitch 3-tech type pass rusher. If he can develop his game into a more well-rounded type guy, that could end up being a really good pick still in another 2-3 years, even next year. You know what I mean? It's not like it's already done.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, United Bates and everybody here in the chat, he says he hasn't missed a game in the last 3 seasons, and that's important, man. We talk about availability, accountability. It really is. He said he had back injury that caused him to miss a preseason game in 23, but played all 17 regular season games. AFAM said Kenny looked very slow after the first step. Chris says, "Rip Kenny, amazing career, Packers Hall of Fame?" ? What do you guys think? You think Kenny's a
No.
I think Jacob's a little more strict than most fans are with Packers Hall of Fame title. I think you are. To me, it's like I have a hard time with the Packers Hall of Fame because it's like, what's the criteria? You know what I mean? Like, you got to have some kind of guideline. It doesn't seem like there's really one there because there's several players I think should be in, and there's been a couple that's winning. I'm like, I loved him as a player, but are we saying he's the best to ever suited up for the Packers? I don't know. What do you guys think about it? Do you think Kenny Clark, if he retired today, should he be in the Packer Hall of Fame? Jacob, I think we know your answer, don't we?
I'm on the fence. I'm not as convinced as Jacob is either way, but I'm on the fence with Kenny. Let's see how he does in 2025, right?
Yeah.
Right. I do love that he's been on this.
It's maybe
Jacob.
Go ahead. Go.
No, I was just saying, I do love that he's been on the team his whole career and that, he hasn't left us out to dry. Like the dude fights for us, plays for us through different DCs when it was Fire Joe Barry season, when it was Jeff Halfley's a man season. So let's get him a Super Bowl. And I would say we could probably bring him up there. But as of right now, I would say maybe not.
Got it.
That's a great point. If we could end this season or end his career with him getting a Super Bowl this year, I would totally be able to be talked into it way more easily. But in the chat, if you could let us know, just say yes or no. Does Kenny Clark, if he were to end his career today as a Green Bay Packer, deserve to be in the Packers Hall of Fame? Yes or no? I want to see that.
And while they're getting their answers in, Tim, we got breaking news here, sir.
Uh-oh.
Our Aaron Rodgers, not the Aaron Rodgers, said, we got breaking news. Packers top 30 visit Florida cornerback Jason Marshall per Easton Butler. Thank you for that, Aaron. Appreciate you dropping that news in here on us. And, let's I don't want to shift gears completely, but I want to know where he's at on our board, Emilio.
338.
Woo-wee. So another
237 on the PFF big board.
He was 182, Tim.
Wow, so he's fallen a little bit.
Wonder why. That's interesting. You guys will get that tomorrow. We'll do a full breakdown on that top 30 visit there with Jason Marshall out of Florida. There's got to be something there, right? Definitely got to be something there. So, all right, let's see what everybody was answering about Kenny. And again, Aaron, thank you for that information, buddy. Appreciate that. Looks like in the chat it's a little mix. Chuck Jagger says no. Greg Rice says no. AFAM says yes. Tony Holman, no relation to Tom Holman, says on the fence. It's funny that he said on the fence. AFAM says first ballot. Wes Robb says yes. Chuck Goodman says no, but close. I think that's where I'm at, Chuck. I really do, man. Deadfish says yes. Mrs. Green said, everybody shut up and listen. Packer Hall of Fame, yes. Canton, absolutely not. There you go.
Facts.
Holmes says no. Doug says no. Looks like it's pretty unanimous. Everybody's saying no, aren't they? So, I think I would be kind of like Tim on the fence, but in the end, I would have to say no. So, all right, there's your Kenny Clark talk of the day. Let's move on to the next player here. Kobe Wooden, PFF grade 50. Yeah. Rowe, developmental defensive tackle, depth piece, 2024 performance. The 2023 fourth-round pick appeared in 13 games, mostly on passing downs, with 20 tackles, 0 sacks, 2 tackles for a loss. His strengths is athleticism with a 4.79 40-yard dash and versatility. He's a raw talent with potential. Challenges, light for the interior at 6'4", 278, and unpolished. He's often overpowered in run defense. His PFF grade highlights his struggles, contract status under a rookie deal through 2026. Look at the RAS card, though, boys. He's in the RAS Hall of Fame here with a 9.25, coming in at 6'4", 273, 23 bench reps. But, boy, that composite speed grade was elite, 4.79 40. And then, of course, a great composite agility grade there, too, with the shuttle of 4.52, 3-cone of 7.49 with a broad jump of 9.52 as well. Go ahead, Jake. What you got, man?
Have you ever seen a weight grade of 0.75? They didn't give homie a full point.
Yeah,
they said, you are tiny, sir.
We'll so get on a plane right now and let's get you to Culver's. We need you to drop into Culver's. And this is a perfect example, right? If his RAS was in the 7s, he probably falls to the 5th or 6th. But because you got that RAS card, the Underwear Olympics, and he just hasn't lived up so far. And now, Tim, he's been a little banged up too, I believe, right? Yeah. It feels like he's been injured a lot too. So,
can't make the club in the tub, right? PFF, we don't know their formula, but certainly last season the production grade was pretty low. So hopefully he takes a step this year.
Good eye there from Deadfish. Long arms, 33 3/4 inch arms. It's not everything, is it, Emilio?
Nope. No, it's the only thing. The arm length is the only. 33.
How about these hands?
33 inches, all they care about. But it's a lot of green. But like Jacob said, man, we need to get that man bulked up, get him on some whey protein.
There you go. All right,
take him over to Crow's West for a butter burger, right?
There you go, man. Hey, I know I'm gonna be hitting that place up while we're in town. Lord have mercy. That's gonna happen.
I didn't have it last time. You have to show me, Tim.
Bro, the only thing that's pissing me off about this entire trip is my ultimate goal was to try to buy my way in somehow, some way to get Emilio into a stadium tour. and they're not doing any stadium tours to the best of my knowledge.
That's all right. That's all right.
We'll get it next.
We'll just have to go to another game. That's fine.
That's it. Yeah. But it's going to be awesome, man, going up there. And I had Trucker John reach out to me, a couple other people. Hey, what's the plan? When are we meeting up? We need to try to get together in the Patreon group, probably. Everybody who's going, just throw in the general chat, hey, I'm going. And we'll try to pick a day that makes sense for we're going to be there all 3 days. Now, during the draft, we're going to be doing our draft show back at the house that we rented. So we're going to be doing the draft show then. So we'll be hanging out at the festivities during the day. But on day 3, I'm pretty sure we're not going to do a show until after the draft is over. So we're going to be hanging out over there all day at day 3. I think it'll be a lot of fun. So you guys just let us know in the Patreon group, or like I said, you can email us, whatever. Let us know what your plans are. We'll make sure that we get to meet up. I can't wait to meet Trucker John, though, man. Trucker John has been an avid listener of the show and dealt with some health issues and stuff. And there's nothing I enjoy more than texting back and forth with old Trucker John. No doubt about it. So looking forward to get a chance to meet him. Up next, Nesta Jade Silvera, PFF grade 44.2. What's that, Jacob?
I'm just asking for a who?
There it is. Rotational nose tackle. I think they seen TJ Slayton leaving the Packers. They said we better get a big body in here just in case we don't fill that void, right? Rotational nose tackle, run stuffing, depth. 2024 performance acquired in 2024 after playing 7 games with the Raiders, where he recorded 8 tackles, 0 sacks, 0 tackles for a loss. That's a hell of a stat line. Limited impact with Green Bay. Strength, size 6'2", 315, and strength. He holds his ground against the run, challenges minimal pass rush impact, and slow feet limit his role. His low PFF grade underscores his limitations. Contract status, likely a 1-year deal or a futures contract set for free agency in 2026 unless extended. When you look at his RAS card here, a 6.56. The only thing that really sticks out is the 10-yard split. Pretty good quickness there with scoring an 8.11 on a 1.73 10-yard split. The overall 40-yard dash was a 5.16. His broad jump, a 9.02. Other than that, really everything just kind of meh across the board, right? So I think this is a practice squad body too, to be honest with you. And the reason I wanted to highlight all of these guys, including James Esther, we'll get into him right now, no PFF grade, practice squad / depth defensive tackle, 2024 performance, an undrafted free agent. He spent most of the year on the practice squad, logging under 50 snaps and spot appearances. His strengths, a decent frame at 6'3", 305, and effort. He's a project with some tools. Challenges raw and unproven. He's yet to make an impact. No PFF grade due to minimal play. Contract status, signed to a futures contract for 2025, fighting for a roster spot. His RAS card, a 4.12. So when you look at the whole reason we wanted to cover this, where are the strong points in the defensive tackle room, right? Where are the weak spots? And how many voids do we have open? How many roster spots do we have open on here? Okay, so if we go back up and count them off one more time, Devontae Wyatt is going to be on this roster. We know this, right?
Yep.
Kenny Clark's going to be on this roster.
Carl Brooks
is going to be on this roster, right? Kobe Wooden, to me, he's kind of on the chopping block, to be honest with you. So that's 3, right? So that's 3 that we got. If we counted Kobe, let's say 3, possibly 4. But
his seat's getting a little warm, though. It's getting warm.
Do you already count Slayton obviously being gone? Like, is that another full
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I mean,
that might be what's keeping Colby Wooden in the mix right now.
That's what I was going to say, right?
But with TJ Slayton's role being more of a nose tackle, Colby Wooden doesn't even fit that, right? So, so essentially, you could say you got 4 right now, right? So, how many do you want to carry? I wonder how many we carried breaking camp last year. I should know that number right offhand. If you guys can find it, it might be a little bit difficult to find it, but if you look at the initial 53-man roster, I imagine it was probably 4 to 5. It might have been 6, but let's say you've got at least one spot open, right? The void that TJ Slayton's leaving. So I say that because we know in the past, if we had a position that we felt like the Packers needed, they're going to double dip in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
So
especially if it's a deep draft, like the 20 D tackles that are supposed to go in 3 rounds, Clay. I was just going to –
Amelia, what do you think about the fact that, like Ben Holden says, obviously we lost Slayton, but then I forgot, remember Jonathan Ford? People always wondered, like, why do they keep him on the roster? Because he is a massive probably the closest thing we had at the time to a true nose. You know what I mean? A zero tech. So like, do you think that? And this is for anybody that wants to chime in. I really do. Like you talked about how Gutey's been sort of taking the top 30 visits for the top of the draft and the back of the draft. It wouldn't surprise me if he starts all of a sudden you start bringing in some very sizable D tackles towards that end of the draft that maybe he's trying to go for a Walter Nolan, a Harmon, a Grant, whatever it could be in the first round or the second round, and then coming back around in rounds 4, 5, 6, 7 to try to find another big honking hog molly that you plug in there at the zero tech and just stand there and just try to stand. Don't let them go forward.
Right?
Yeah.
So when you look at the top 30 visits, we have not met with any defensive tackles other than TJ Sanders,
Collins.
right?
Isn't Collins?
Not a top 30 visit, right?
Oh,
okay.
I miss
that one? Yeah, we're just strictly talking top 30 now. Met with them in general, with the cheese emoji here. There's several. Walter Nolan being one, Kenneth Grant being one. So if you're sitting there looking at how many spots are there going to be to fill, I think there's 2. Me personally. Yep. I think if the board falls just right, you can draft 2 defensive tackles in this draft and feel good about both of them making the roster. Easy peasy, right? So if Kenneth Grant's there at 23, he's in play. Walter Nolan I'm telling you, if Walter Nolan is the pick at 23, y'all going to see me lose my mind. That's one of those dudes. He's in the 18 spot on our board. Greg Cosell said he's the best defensive tackle in this draft. You got to be able to rush with power. We fall in love with speed and agility and this and that, but in the interior, when you got he calls him a true power 3 tech, is what he says. So Walter Nolan is like the dude I want there, even more so than Kenneth Grant, albeit Kenneth Grant higher on our board. I'd be okay with that as well. Next on that list, it goes down to TJ Sanders, right? Is next. And we've actually had a top 30 visit with him. So if you're kind of just reading between the lines here and how top 30 visits work, they may end up scheduling a top 30 visit with Walter Nolan and Kenneth Grant. That may end up happening. But they may already look at them and go, oh, yeah, if they're on the board, we'd be okay with taking them, no problem, right? Because how high they are on the board there. Now, when you get down to TJ Sanders, it's like, hey, can we qualify him for the 23rd pick? That's kind of what that feels like. Because it seems like he'll be gone when we get to 54. So that's kind of the thought process I'm having. Alfred Collins, we met with, not a top 30 visit, but we met with him. He's in the 47 spot. So that's another one there. So what you essentially got when you look at the Packers draft board in terms of who they've met with, whether it was the Combine, Pro Days, East-West Shrine Game, Senior Bowl, whatever, Kenneth Grant and Walter Nolan are at the top. Then you got TJ Sanders and Alfred Collins on the next tier, okay? And then it drops down to Aeneas Peebles and CJ West. You see what I'm saying? So you got like these little groupings of 2.
Yeah.
If the first swing you get at one of these 3 techs ends up being, TJ Sanders or Alfred Collins, I can't expect them to have a huge impact on any year. Now again, it doesn't mean that they're not going to go after Derek Harmon or somebody else. Okay. So let's go ahead and remove that off the board there. And let's look at all the 3 techs, not just the ones that the Packers had met with. So you got Mason Graham at the 4 spot, right? We've got Kenneth Grant in the 14 spot we talked about. You got Walter Nolan in the 18 spot. Then you got Derek Harmon in the 25 spot. So I would be okay with Derek Harmon at 23 as well. And who knows? It kind of feels like he's primed for a top 30 visit. I don't know how you guys feel about that. The fact they haven't met with him at all, at least it wasn't reported. What do you guys think about that? Do you think they'll maybe schedule a top 30 with Derek Harmon, get him in-house soon?
I would hope so.
Yeah. I mean, Ed Madden, John's son, pretty sure. Gutey said Gutey was at all 3 DT's pro days, being Nolan, Grant, and Harmon. So maybe he saw enough where he was like, all right, I don't even, I like what I see kind of thing. Real quick, too, Prince was talking about how Wooden had added nearly 20 pounds of bulk before the last season move. And before I forgot it, Holmes was saying Nolan is light for a nose tackle. We're not talking a 1 tech or a 0 tech nose tackle. We're talking 3 tech here. So that was, if we got that a little bit jumbled there, that's not what we meant there. But what would you say, Clayton, while I'm asking this question, if you could find what you consider the highest nose tackle would be on your board. And here's a fun fact that was shared by CFB Home. It's a crazy but true statistic that there was a 310-pound difference between the largest and smallest prospects in this year's NFL draft, with the largest being Desmond Watson, the Florida D tackle, at 464 pounds, and Mr. Tez Johnson, the Oregon slot receiver, at 154 pounds. I'll say that again. There's a difference between 310 pounds between.
I'm just going to leave that on the screen there for a second. There you go.
Yeah, Lord.
Look at that Jordan logo stitched on. He's screaming. He's screaming like live right now. I'm telling you right now, man. As soon as I seen his legs, I seen them knees, I said, I'd like to eat dinner at his grandmama's house.
Yeah. Them shorts are holding on for dear life, for sure.
Yeah. Hear them. If you listen real close, they're going.
Squeaking. Grease joints and everything. Got zerk fittings on it. Yeah.
Exactly.
But look, I was looking at the board. We have 14 rows for our targets. So 14 out of the 30, or the 14 out of the top 30 visits have occurred, as we know of. So we're about halfway there.
So we just got 16 left, huh?
Yep.
16. That's going to be interesting, man, because defensive tackle, we've only had one in-house, right?
Yep.
Did you see this?
Respect Oranges. When he was born, he was given a girth certificate instead of a birth certificate. Tim, what's up with all this fat shaming in here, sir?
I don't
These
know.
are your people, Tim. What's wrong with them?
I don't know. I don't know what's going on.
Tim's not fat. What are you talking about?
I'm talking about the chat. I didn't say Tim.
Gotcha.
I said it's his people in here in the chat. He loves the chat. Could tell you how
I don't know. I'm not a doctor.
Something you posted in the chat, and I could just see Tim's ears turn red. It's hilarious. So, I think you've got to have at least a couple 3 texts pop up on this top 30 visit chart soon, really, really soon. So, Emilio, why don't we sort it? I'm going to sort it by tier here real quick and just show everybody this. This is really cool. Something else that Emilio added in. So when we talk about tiers, we got it in increments of 5s. Right.
Ooh,
so
Abdul jumped up there.
He did. You know why? Greg Cosell talking about Abdul Carter. Yeah. First time I heard Greg Cosell talk about him, I'm like, I can't give him a bonus based off what he said. And then hearing him talk about him today, it was almost just like he's like, everybody knows he's the best edge defender in this draft.
Right.
You know, and it was like, and he did talk about numerous positives. I'm like, I'm gonna give him a 3 there. That
right.
kind of sounds.
But I don't want to waste time going. I want to go over other prospects because he's so good. We're just going to put him over to the side.
So in tier 1 of this draft, with minus scores, with that being a good thing, right? Ashton Gianti, running back out of Boise State, hands down the best prospect. Abdul Carter, edge defender out of Penn State, is the second best prospect. Then you go down to the next tier, and you got Travis Hunter out of Colorado, and then Mason Graham, defensive tackle. Okay. Then when you get in, so you notice in the top 2 tiers, there's 2 in the top, 2 in the second tier, and now you're starting to get a cluster. When we talk about cluster busters, this is what you call a cluster. You've got, 5 players in tier 3, okay? And it's labeled tier 5 because that's the points that are attacked, right? So with that being said, Jacob's out here. He said, I'm done with this talk.
Yep.
In the 5 spot, in that third tier of ours, you got Tet McMillan, Will Campbell, Cam Ward, Armand Membo, and Ty Warren, okay? Then in the next tier, there's only 3 in it. Cornerback Will Johnson, Colston Loveland, tight end out of Michigan, and then James Pierce Jr., edge defender out of Tennessee. So it kind of feels like you don't have a very realistic shot at any of those players. Maybe James Pierce Jr., but if that happens, I think we would all agree it's because people have character concerns, right? That's what that's going to end up being if he falls that far, in my opinion. Then in the next tier, look at this cluster here, boys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 players in this cluster. So you've got Kelvin Banks, offensive tackle out of Texas. And then keep in mind, James Pierce Jr., 1 tier higher, we did do a top 30 visit with. So got to mention that. Kelvin Banks, offensive tackle out of Texas. Then we got Kenneth Grant, 3 tech out of Michigan. Then Shamar Stewart, edge defender out of Texas A&M. We had a top 30 visit with him. Jahdae Barron, cornerback out of Texas. Shador Sanders, quarterback out of Colorado. Walter Nolan, defensive tackle out of Ole Miss. And Mike Green, edge defender out of Marshall. We got the purple box on Mike Green because there are some character concerns there. So with that being said, you feel pretty good about having a realistic shot at maybe a player or 2 out of this tier right here
Yep.
that could be available come draft night. If that were the case, maybe who's 2 or 3 in that tier that I would hope like heck they would be available. I think Tim would definitely say Jahdae Barron, right, Tim?
Yeah, I like Jahdae Barron on the defensive side, and Calvin Banks out of Texas has been growing on me lately too. So, and of course, I like Kenneth Grant.
Yeah. Tim, I watched the ESPN featured draft thing on Calvin Banks. As he went through a lot with his mom and still kept playing on the field. Dealing with off the field issues, things. And I mean, just what a guy. So I love that pick. I think Gutey would still take the freak Shamar Stewart and run it up there.
Yep.
And Walter. I mean, I'm going to take it from Clay, but I'll say Walter.
Yeah. For me, if I had to pick 2 out of that whole group right there, it would be Walter Nolan and Jahdae Barron. That's who I would like to have out of that tier. So you can do like these mini drafts within these tiers. That's what's cool about it, right?
Yeah.
You can kind of look
and Clay, that's exactly what DJ and Buck do. That's how you got to get the cluster busters. So that's what we've talked about this whole year. Like, hey, we need to figure out how we're going to be able to break up and make a decision when we're inside a range. And I just like seeing how you see the cheese kind of really light up as you hit the tiers that were around pick range and targets as well.
Yeah. And the captains too,
Yep.
Another really cool aspect. So when we get into the next tier, let's pretend every prospect above that, and we'll get ready to wrap up, but every prospect above this from tier 15 up, let's say they're all gone. So we have to choose in tier 20. We have our pick of the litter here. Here are the prospects in this next tier. Emeka Egbuka, wide receiver out of Ohio State. Jahad Campbell, linebacker out of Bama. Michael Williams, edge defender out of Georgia. Malachi Stark, safety out of Georgia. Josh Simmons, offensive tackle out of Ohio State. Derek Harmon, 3-tech out of Oregon. Boys, I don't think it's a coincidence that as soon as you get in that range where it's like, okay, these guys are going to be available when we pick, we've got the most top 30 visits cluster right here. And those top 30 visits are Emeka Egbuka, wide receiver, Ohio State. Michael Williams, edge defender, Georgia. And Josh Simmons, offensive tackle, Ohio State.
Mm-hmm. And the tiers above are, oh man, if they fall, we might need to run up the card. Tier that we're in is, hey, all right, here's our probable picks, and then
we better have our information right.
Absolutely.
Yep. So that's why when you look at the wide receiver run here, and you look at the tiers, Emeka Egbuka is the one that makes the most sense for us. Mm-hmm. He's our second best receiver on the board. He's right in that tier, right in that range where we're picking. Again, it's not a coincidence that our top 30 visits line up perfectly with this tier on our PTA big board.
You know what I heard, Clay, was they were talking about wide receivers, and they said DJ was talking to a guy, scout or someone in a team department, and he asked him if a receiver and a D tackle are on the board, who are you going to pick? And the guy said, well, if we really need a plug-and-play D tackle, we can find that in free agency at not a bad price. If we need a wide receiver, you're not finding a good wide receiver fall in free agency. You're not finding unless it's 30, 40, 50 million, $40 million. You're not finding that. That's why they said they might put a little bit more emphasis on a wide receiver in the draft instead of the 3-tech D lineman.
Almost like the wide receivers are having a little bit of that quarterback effect, right? Like they might go a little higher
because the price.
Yep, that's a good point. Because I mean, it is costing $30 to $40 million to sign a receiver in free agency, right? So,
a good
really
one.
Cool how the business of sports, the business of the NFL, ties into the draft, and that's where you get into playing chess, not checkers. It's really cool. So, Tim, what do you think about this grouping here, man? Anybody stick out to you? Again, Emeka Egbuka, Jahad Campbell, Michael Williams, Malachi Starks, Josh Simmons, Derek Harmon.
Yeah, I still like Derek Harmon, and
I'd be okay with it.
Yeah, I'd be okay with it too. And we've talked about Egbuka, right? Clearly. If I'm not talking about Jaden Higgins, I'm probably talking about Egbuka. Malachi Starks, though, the safety out of Georgia. I know everyone's going to say we don't need a safety. But if you've got an opportunity to, load up on picks and maybe this guy's on the board, maybe he plays a little slot. Maybe he's providing some depth back there. I like Malachi Starks a lot. And Jahad Campbell's another guy out of Bama that I like.
Yeah. And the other thing, too, with this whole cluster right here, this seems like the sweet spot of the cluster. It really does.
I think so.
look at the injury concerns. Like if you've got a cluster, to me, the top cluster buster for me is injury concerns and character concerns. So if you look at that, Jahad Campbell, he's going to be missing a part of it, at least a part of the early season. Some people were saying he won't be back till December. Other people were saying, no, he'll be ready for training camp. I don't know how he'll be ready for training camp because they're having that was that labrum, right? If I remember correctly, something like that in his shoulder.
Yeah, the shoulder. Yeah.
So Jahad Campbell's got the red box. That's what that means. A major injury in 24. His happened right before the combine, I believe it was. And then Josh Simmons, although they're predicting he's going to be healthy, and we did a top 30 visit, if we were in-house and we were there for that top 30 visit, we would be able to take that red box off. If the Packers doctors got their hands on that knee and said, hey, look, he's good to go, we would remove that, and now we don't have it. Unfortunately, we're just a bunch of idiots over here that think we're learning what we're talking about. So with that being said, we're going to keep the red box up. So I would eliminate those two from that list unless they're the last available, right? If it comes down to all those players are somehow picked, I know numerically it's not possible, but if that were the case and everybody above them were taken and it was just Jahad Campbell and Josh Simmons, then okay, we're drafting one of them. I would be okay with it,
Right.
But yeah, so when you remove that, the list now becomes Emeka Egbuka, right? Michael Williams, both of those top 30 visits. I don't think we would draft Malachi Starks in the first round. I could be wrong, but I think we're pretty well set at safety. And then Derek Harmon. So those are the three that you narrow it down when you go through the cluster buster. So Emeka Egbuka, Michael Williams, and Derek Harmon are like those three that I'm like, man, that's probably most likely the direction we're going to go. If Gutey's board lined up this way. And again, he may have these guys 2 tiers lower and the people below them 2 tiers even higher. That could be the case. So, yeah. Coach Lynn says, good call, fellas. Packers are on it. Yeah. It's interesting when, as you gather all the information and you guys know how the board's built, we don't cheat the board at all. We refuse to cheat it. It's like, it is what it is. And then when things line up with the visits and stuff, it's really cool to see everything kind of come.
Looking at it like this. I mean, we were talking, line up the emojis, line up the numbers on the side. Where are they at? I'm just excited. I really am excited to see where it kind of lands on draft night. Honestly, I think it's going to be a good time.
Yeah. H.E. Soder with a super chat. Thank you, buddy. He says, out of that group, who do you think can come in and be an immediate impact player in year one? That's a great question. So out of that group right there, the one that sticks out. What's that?
The tier 20 group we're talking?
Yeah, I believe so. Yes, sir. You guys, you choose first, and I'll go after you.
It's either Egbuka or Derek Harmon.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was going to say Egbuka.
Yeah, that's me. Because and it's again, well, he's a rookie wide receiver. He's got to learn the offense. Blah blah blah. Right.
Get the ball in his hands.
What's the scouting report say? It says he would be ideal for a moving Z position, so that would make him and Jaden Reed on the field at the same time will be awesome. He's got good hands, right? And what's the big scouting report on him? Like Greg Cosell said, this dude talks like he's a 10-year vet. He said he is going to be a great football player for 10 to 12 years in the National Football League. And he drew those comparisons to Amon-Ra St. Brown and some other players and things like that. He can play on the outside, especially in a Matt LaFleur type offense. So Emeka Egbuka and Derek Harmon are mine too. If Josh Simmons did not have the red box, I would probably lean toward him a little bit. I'm not as big on Michael Williams. However, the main reason I'm not big on it is because the PFF grade didn't really line up. He was 114th at his position this year, But everybody else, Daniel Jeremiah, Kyle Krabs, Dane Brugler, they're all over him. They love him. So definitely trust Daniel Jeremiah's opinion over my own because that's a dude he is a former NFL scout, so he knows what he's talking about for sure. So great question, Soder. That was awesome, man.
Yeah,
awesome.
For sure.
All right, let's get out of here, man. I know we went a little over. I appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Yeah. So tomorrow we'll get in the cornerback room. I had it on the list tonight, but we got to talking draft board and hitting these tiers. Oh, that's the other thing. We got to get this organized ASAP. We're 2 weeks out from the draft, roughly, right? We have got to get our draft contest set up, okay? So I'm going to keep it real simple. We're going to do some kind of giveaway, and what I want everybody to do in the Patreon group is we're going to create a separate chat, and it's going to be the mock draft contest 2025, okay? You get one mock draft, and you're going to do a full 7-round mock draft for the Packers, screenshot it, put it in there, And I'm gonna delete comments out of that chat. I'm not trying to be rude, but I just want it to be, hey, here's everybody's submissions. Okay?
Right.
Here's their mock drafts. We could chat, and we got 6 other chats. We can go in there and hang out and talk. I just want to keep that clean. And again, if you guys want to wait until the very last second, that's probably the right play. Wait till the last second, or if you feel comfortable, hey, I'm going to go ahead and get it in right now. But we will allow people to enter their mock drafts into that chat as late as the night before. Let's say midnight of the 24th, right? So Thursday when the draft kicks off, midnight.
Wednesday night.
11:59 Wednesday night.
Yep.
Get your mock drafts in, and like I said, we'll do a giveaway there. Also, we're doing a giveaway this Saturday for anybody that's in the Patreon group, a member of the $3 tier. We're going to put their name on the Larry McCarron Pinky Wheel of Fame, and we're going to spin that sucker and give away an autographed Catan Oladapo rookie card.
Let's go! I love it.
A way for us to give back to those who are down for sure. Ola Home Depot took on a thing of its own last year.
It really did.
That draft party was awesome, though, man. That was a blast.
That was a blast. We lost our minds when he was drafted, right?
Oh my God, man. And he was one of those. That's the other thing that we got to get going too, Emilio, is when Packer Report releases their draft guide. I think tomorrow we're going to go through and get their most perfect threshold fits. We'll remove all the heart eye emojis off the board, and those heart eye emojis will only be who Packer Report's draft guide says those are perfect fits for each position. That way we know that's really narrowed down. So when you get that with the top 30 visit, that's when you got that. All right, these are the guys that are prime. I think we came away with like 7 last year was the total we came away with. We ended up drafting 2 of those 7 players. So, but anyway, I know there's a lot of information we just covered, but everybody make sure you get in line there on the Patreon group in terms of getting yourself entered into that draft contest.
Greg Rice is over here worried about what time it ends. Are you even in the Patreon group, Greg? What are you talking about?
And that QR code up there on the right.
Get yourself in there.
Yeah. The main thing with the mock draft contest is we're not going to take a submission at 8:15. Right. Not going to happen. You know what I mean? Like
just cheating at that point.
Yeah. Get it in the night before, and that way we can all kind of be, because I care. He says, all right, we appreciate you caring, man. Appreciate you caring. Caring is sharing, right? Or sharing is sharing. I don't know. The smell is bad. What was that? Yeah, y'all ever seen the Zohan? Don't mess with the Zohan.
You don't mess with the Zohan? Yeah. 100 years ago, I saw that. Yeah.
Such a good movie. It still holds up. Go watch that tonight. So. All right. Tony Holman says, hit the like button or I'm going to come get you. Now, listen, I got to be better about that, all right? You got to listen. I got to start promoting that more. It's the only thing holding the channel back. The people that are coaching me are saying that, like, bro, you got to get out of the way and just say, hey, please like the stream. Mm-hmm. Even if you didn't like it. Okay, sounds good. So, all right, we'll see y'all tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Central. Appreciate everybody hanging out with us. Hit that like on the way out. Make sure you check out the Patreon group, man. We're going to have more articles. I'm going to get started on that top 30 visit that just came down the wire. Again, shout out to Aaron Rodgers for giving us that info. Appreciate you. And H.E. Solder, thank you for the super chat. Y'all have a wonderful night. We'll see you tomorrow.
There we go.
Bye, guys.